Journey with Judy.
Honest, open, transparent. It's hot.
There's no such thing as perfect people. There's no such thing as a perfect life. So come as you are, broken and scarred. Lift up your heart and be amazed and be changed by a perfect God.
Okay, good morning. You are listening to Judy Hehr right here on Lake 96.1. And I have to tell you, when I agreed to finally do this gig, this new gig that only God could have provided for me, I thought I would have no peeps and no props and no problem. And the fact of the matter is, I am sitting here and like a caged animal in a room with just one guy pushing buttons, and it is so difficult for me to convey to you the passion and the beliefs that I have. So I hope that you are receiving this with the intensity in which it's attempted to be conveyed, because it's so hard for me to not have your faces in front of me and watch your expressions, because I so thrive on what it is that you are feeling when God speaks to you through me. Thank you for being with me this morning. So we got to get started. So much to cover. I was reading recently about a statistic that was absolutely mind-blowing to me. 80% of women over age 18 are dissatisfied when they look in the mirror. That is so disturbing to me, because I know now that we as women were made in the image of God. An image, by definition, is it exactly resembles, not kind of, not a little bit, but exactly. And what that says to me is that when we look in the mirror, if we are not seeing God, then something is drastically wrong. We resemble God in his desires. He placed these desires deep within our heart that mirror him. And desire is simply a strong feeling of waiting, wanting, and wishing. And again, my kids would finish this sentence: never underestimate the power of desire, because no great things were ever accomplished without it. And I know that my desires to be seen, to be sought, and to be certain were never met. And so what I did with them was I dismissed them, I discounted them, and I discarded them. And I don't know what you did with yours, but I know that they were given to me by God, and I simply replaced them when they weren't met with desires that were deformed, distracted, and oftentimes demented. And I was thinking to myself today, like, that's what you do with trash. You discard it. You dismiss it because it has no value. But you don't do that with your God-given desires. But that's what I did, because I didn't know what I know today. And so I'm so thanking God today for the process of recycling. And here's what that is. That's to take something that would be considered wasted, and set it apart for something new. And I am so grateful to a God who can do that. He can create something from nothing, but he can restore something to its original state for what it was intended. And I love that about him. So girlfriends and even guy friends, you are so going to want to stay tuned today, because we are talking about three simple desires about what women want, why they want it, and where they can go to get it. So we are going to be back in just 3 minutes to talk about these three desires. You are listening to Journey with Judy on Lake 96.1. We'll be right back. Welcome back. You are listening to Journey with Judy on Lake 96.1, and I'd like to thank you once again for joining me this morning. For those of you who have just tuned in, we are sharing this morning about our core desires as women. And so all stages, all ages of life, we have these God-given, God-shared desires deep within us. And we define desire as a waiting, a wishing, and a wanting. And the bottom line is we can survive without having these desires met, but we will never thrive unless we believe that we have these desires and we retrieve them. Because for many of us, and again, I try to use I statements, for me, myself and I know those desires were tucked away and discarded and dismissed. And so we're thanking God this morning that He can extract useful material from garbage. That is the recycling process, and that is what we are celebrating today, that He has the ability to recycle. So let's talk about this thing with desires. What are they? Where did they come from? We know where they came from. I just told you that. What are they? And why do we want them? And where are we going to get them? So here they are. Number one, you as a woman have a desire to be romanced. Number two, you have a beauty to unveil. And number three, you want to play an irreplaceable role in a great adventure. And I have to tell you, when I give this talk, by and large, the response is people not agreeing with me. So I got to unpack this for you to the degree that by the end of this day, you will know that these desires are yours and it is given to you and shared by your Creator. So I'm not talking about romance in the traditional sense, like love letters and candlelight dinner. I am talking not about being wined and dined, although that works too. I am talking about romanced in the way that you want to be. I want to be seen, sought, explored, and pursued. Come on, girlfriends, like you got to admit, and guy friends, you know that your woman wants those things. And see, for me in my house now, I ask Bobby on any occasion, write me a letter, tell me how you feel. He does that. I read the letter. It touches me so deeply and so profoundly. And he expresses this unconditional love. But I know as well as you know that unconditional love has a shelf life of about 6 seconds. So I got to look to my God to fill that need. I got to look to my God to know that He is seeking me and He wants to explore me and pursue me. And the verse that comes to mind is, seek me and you will find me. And that's all God wants. He wants to be sought the same way as women, we want to be sought. And when it comes to this subject of being romanced, I would say that, like most women, again, speaking for myself specifically, I find myself being busy most of the time, being numb some of the time. And the few times that I am seeking, I am absolutely finding this romance, this being seen, sought, explored, and pursued. And I gotta love that. Number two, ladies, you have a beauty to unveil. And you know, the Dove website states that 2% of women would describe themselves as beautiful. How sad. How sad is that for you, for your daughters, for your granddaughters, that they would look in the mirror, not only not see God, but to not even recognize themselves as beautiful. And we know that our culture defines beauty in a totally different way than as we grow and mature, we understand what true beauty is. It's not external. It's not something that the society promotes it to be. And you can look at any magazine. You can stand at the checkout line and 10 out of 20 magazines have a beauty secret, a beauty message, a beauty promise, a beauty giveaway. And this beauty that I'm talking about is when you look at someone and you say, do you delight in me? Do you see me? And am I lovely? This kind of beauty that God wants for you and from you is a beauty that has to be unveiled. It's something that doesn't maintain. It doesn't have to even try. It becomes in time. And, you know, I walked down the aisle in my wedding, and I didn't wear my veil. And people thought, like, predominantly what I heard in the receiving line is, that is so you, like doing it different, not wearing a veil. And now, 17 years later, I have come to the realization that not wearing that veil had so much significance about the intentional and deliberate way I was going to enter into a sacramental union, not even remotely knowing that I had a beauty to unveil, and certainly not even considering allowing someone to attempt to unveil it, because I didn't even know that it was there. Now I know that my king, he's enthralled with my beauty. And this kind of beauty that I want to be recognized as having, it's so rare. It's so undeniable. But I will tell you, girlfriends or guy friends, it's irresistible. This kind of beauty, it speaks to your soul. It invites and draws you in. It comforts you. It nourishes you. It gives life. It inspires. It makes you want to be a better person. And it transcends. It pierces you with longing. Like, that's the kind of beauty that we have as women. And I can tell you that when I come to my man with my desire and not my demand, I know that he finds me so beautiful. And the physical part, like, that's just a bonus if you got that going, but it's so not what God intended. How about number 3? To play an irreplaceable role. What does that mean? It means as a woman, I want to be essential. I want to be indispensable. I want to be so desperately needed. I want to be crucial. No one can be to the people in your life who you were called to be. And you know, this life, it's not supposed to be pain-free. It's supposed to be purposeful. And you know, we always are trying, I am always trying to be and play some role that wasn't my part to play. I wasn't given that part in the play. I was given this part for this place, for this time, for this purpose, for these people. And that irreplaceable role is one that God shares as well. He doesn't want anybody taking his place, anybody or anything. And I'll tell you what, your kids, your man, your employee, whatever, any of the people in your circle, there's nobody who should be able to play the role that you were called to play. And you know, I've blown this for the first 18 years of my marriage. I got approval from Bob to share this story with you. Bob was diagnosed with low testosterone. And so we sat in the office and we got the diagnosis, and the doctor said, you know, how long do you think, you know, this has been going on? And he looked right at me and he looked at the doctor and he said, she has been stealing my testosterone. That's where it went. And you know what? It's so true, because I came to this union saying, I don't need you. I don't want you. I'll be the man. I'll be the woman. I got this covered. So why then would he seek me? Why then would he attempt to unveil my beauty? And why would he feel that I have an irreplaceable role? So here's the gig, girlfriends, is if your man or your significant other isn't doing these things, it's okay, because they can't do it all the time. You have a God who wants to do it for you. And you know, the other standing joke in my house is like, I know that I wanted to be the man so much, like Bob could actually introduce me as like, this is my wife, Judy. She's the man I want to be. And, you know, now we can laugh about it. But the reality is it wasn't playing the role that I was called to play. It didn't invite my man into a space that was inspiring and transcendent, that spoke to him. It doesn't make me want to be seen and sought after. It just doesn't. It just doesn't represent these core desires that our God shares with us, has placed deep within us. And so I love that I know that now. I love when I am walking in the light of God, that I can be him to my man and see him in my man. And again, this isn't only about people that we're in a significant relationship with. It's just everybody, all women. want to be romanced, want to have a beauty to unveil, and absolutely want to play an irreplaceable role. God wants this from you. He wants this for you. And if I could take you, shake you, and make you believe that you got these desires, they matter. Don't shelf them. Don't dismiss them. We got to take a break. You are listening to Journey with Judy on Lake 96.1. Please stick with me. Welcome back. You're listening to Journey with Judy right here on Lake 96.1, sponsored by Cunis Country Auto Group. And I'd like to do a shout out to Greg and his family. I love them, and thank you for sponsoring the show. So we're talking this morning about these God-given desires that have been placed deep within our hearts, and they resemble the character and desires of God, which is why it's so profoundly important that we recognize that we have them. They are to be romanced, they are to have a beauty to unveil, and to play an irreplaceable role. And there's a quote by C.S. Lewis that says, God does not find our desires too strong, but us too weak, as we settle for and are far too easily pleased. I know in my life when my desires were not met. As I said, I was unsought, unseen, and uncertain by age 18. And so those desires were just tucked away as something that didn't matter, something that would never, ever be fulfilled. And I know I'm not the only person who would say that many of us, at some point or another, have lived in quiet resignation or desperation as a result of looking for this kind of love, and in my case, in all the wrong places. But we're so happy that God is in the recycling business and he can return things to their original state. And so I'm hoping that that's what's happening in my life and my heart and yours as well. So as women, we totally want these things, but we cannot go about getting them by being dominating, or equally as much of a bummer is a desolate, needy kind of woman. I know that I'm sick of striving and indulging and controlling because my needs are not being met by the people and places and spaces that I find myself. Because I know now that God wants to meet them. And I know that this is always about that. And that is the unfulfilled desire that I have when I don't go to the source of where it was originated. And I know that no desire can be fully and finally satisfied apart from God. Ask me how, I know. Been there, done that. And I want you to know this morning that it's not just me. He pursues you. He delights in you. And he finds you totally essential to play this irreplaceable role in this great adventure called life, as a wife, as a mother, as a person of faith, as a granddaughter, whatever your role is as a woman. We can't be looking to anybody else to fill that space, that cavernous hole deep within us. We need to dig in there, dig deep, and know that these desires, we got them, they matter, and only God can fill them. The other day, Campbell, my daughter, and I were shopping, and she was so incredibly patient. And I said, baby, when we're done, we're going to go to Culver's, and you're going to get anything you want, which I would never say because we generally order off the dollar menu at any place in our home. So we pulled in, and I said, okay, baby, what do you want? And she said, I want a Freezy. And I looked right at her, and I said, baby, you don't want that. You don't need that. You just had 3 of those because she was not feeling so good that day. And you know what? As those words left my mouth, what resonated so deep in my heart is I am so grateful to a God who doesn't say that. He doesn't say you can have what it is that you want. And then when we come to him and say, this is what I want to be seen, sought, and certain. And he doesn't turn and say, oh, baby, you don't need that and you don't want that. And so once again, he speaks through my children. He mirrors me in so many ways through my kids what it is that I'm called to be on this journey. And this show has allowed me to try to do this gig just a little bit different as a wife and a mother. And so once again, I'm so grateful for the opportunity. We got to go to break. We're going to wrap it up in a few minutes. Thank you for listening to Journey with Judy, Lake 96.1. We'll be right back. It's almost over. Doesn't the time go so fast? We were talking today about these desires that God has for you and He wants from you. A desire to be romanced, to have a beauty to unveil, and to play an irreplaceable role. You got them, girlfriend. Don't dismiss them. Don't discard them. There is nothing sadder than what dies within us while we are living. Thank you again for joining me, and to the Cunis Country Auto Group for sponsoring this show. I'm going to invite you to check me out at www.judyhehr.com, Hehr, or check me out on Facebook. Love to hear your comments about the show or show topics. Look forward to hearing from you. And remember, we get to go from journeying from God's image to His likeness. Know it, believe it, and receive it. See you right here next Sunday. And remember, it's a journey and not a destination. Peace out. Life Matters with Dave and Nancy, but not Dave, coming up next right here on Lake 96.1.